Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ali Qureshi and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about strength standards, especially strength standards for the upper body. So pecs, lats, delts, bis and tris. And these strength standards are only for naturals. Obviously enhanced lifters are going to have totally different numbers. So in today's video we'll focus on the strength standards for the bench press, for the overhead press, for dips, and for pull-ups. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the standards based on 3 categories for each lift. We'll do a novice strength standard, intermediate strength standard, and then we'll finish off with an advanced strength standards. So let's get started. So the first lift we're going to be talking about is the bench press. Now the bench press is probably the most popular lift when it comes to the gym. Everybody's always talking about how much you bench, so it's one of the exercises that are most commonly done. At the same time, it's one of the exercises that's most commonly done wrong. I've always seen people in the gym, not rounding their shoulders, not pushing their shoulders back, rounding their shoulders up like that. I always see people not using leg drive. You don't have to use leg drive, but leg drive is very important when it comes to pushing up those bench numbers and trying to increase your overload on the muscles. I always see people flaring the elbows totally out like this instead of keeping them at like a 45-degree angle. So there's lots of different problems with the bench press, and people are usually not doing it right. But in terms of strength standards, so for the novice lifter, I would say 185 is a good standard. I'm talking 185 for around 5 reps. For most of these lifts, I'll be talking about 5 rep max, not a 1 rep max, because 1 rep max is more of a powerlifting thing. And when it comes to building muscle and bodybuilding and fitness, you want to push for a little bit more than just a 1 rep max. So for the bench, 5 rep max, 185 for the novice or beginner lifter. This is pretty, I think you can probably achieve 185 in probably 1 to 2 years of proper lifting. Yeah, so that's a pretty reasonable number. When it comes to the intermediate lifter, I would say probably 245 for 5. Again, 245 for 5 is pretty reasonable. Most people will be able to get there. Probably take 3 to 4 years for people. Some people can get there a little bit faster. Some people might take a little bit longer. But 245, I think, is a good number for the intermediate lifter in bench. And then the advanced lifter, probably 275 to 285 plus. I think most guys can get to 275. Just to remind you guys, these numbers are for males only. Females will have totally different numbers, but we're going to be talking about natural males only. So yeah, so 275 to 285, 285. That's a reasonable number. I think most men can get there. Will take a long time, probably around 5 years plus for most guys. I think after you pass that 225 phase, it gets a lot harder to put some more weight on in terms of the bench press, but still a reasonable goal, and I think most guys can get there. So 285 plus, and if you're benching more than 285, you're a beast. So keep going. So the next lift we're talking about is the overhead press. Now the overhead press, unlike the bench press, I don't see enough people working the overhead press. The overhead press is a really good movement for overall upper body development, specifically the delts, the anterior delts, and the side delts, for like lateral delts a little bit. I would say for the rear delts, it's not really a great movement, but for your front delts, side delts, or lateral delts, upper pecs and triceps, and even a little bit of the traps and the back, because when you go up, you have to stabilize the weight. So more people need to be doing more people need to be doing the overhead press. It also has a lot of carryover to the bench press. So overall, a really good movement that more guys need to be doing. In terms of the strength standards for the overhead press, I would say for novice lifters, probably around 35, probably around 115, I would say. Or if you can do 115 for 5 you're in good space in terms of being a novice lifter. Again, a year or two for most guys, you can get to 115. Now, moving on to the intermediate lifter, I would say 145. So 135, so 45, 45 on the bar, and then 2 5s on each side. Get to 145. If you can overhead press 145, you probably have really good delts. You have strong delts. You have large, good development in your delts. You probably have good development in your triceps as well. So for intermediate lifters, 145. Again, I would say 3 to 4 years, maybe even less, maybe even 2 years for some people, 2.5 years. You can get to the 145 on the overhead press. Now, if you are an elite or like an advanced lifter, you should probably be doing close to 185. I would say close to 185 on the overhead press for 5 reps. Now, if you can do 185 for 5 on the overhead press, dude, you're a tank. That's a lot of weight. That's heavy weight for the overhead press. Pushing that much weight while standing above your head, you feel like a boss. You're a beast. Keep going if you can do 185. Next we have the dip. So the dip, again, another lift that I think people overlook. I'm not sure why, but people overlook the dip. The dip is a great accessory movement for the bench as well. So if you got a good dip, you're gonna be good in the bench. So in terms of the novice lifter, I think for the novice lifter, let's just say if you can do 5 to 10 body weight dips, you're good. As a novice lifter, you have good development, probably good development in your tricep, good development in your pecs. Yeah, you're not going to be huge, but this is a novice level. One step higher, we move to intermediate. Here, you have to put weight on a belt or something, or use a dumbbell to increase the weight that you're actually dipping. So I would say for intermediate lifter, you should probably be doing 5 reps of 45. I think you could probably do a little bit more, but I would say that to a bare minimum for intermediate lifter who's been lifting for 2 to 4 years, you should be dipping your body weight plus 45. So plus the 45 plate or a 45-pound dumbbell. Now, if you are an advanced lifter, you've been lifting for 5 years, you could probably dip your body weight plus 100 pounds for 5 reps. So if you can dip your body weight plus 100 pounds, 100-pound dumbbell or plates, you got good development in your pecs, and you have good development in your triceps. You probably have good development in your shoulders as well, because shoulders play a big role in this movement, but primarily your pec minor, so the muscle that's underneath your pec major. That's gonna be really strong if you're dipping that much weight, and your triceps are gonna be huge. Your triceps is gonna blow up if you're dipping that much weight. So another tip, quick tip: big dip equals huge triceps. Do the dips if you want big triceps, okay? And yeah, so 100-pound dip for 5. That's a good strength standard for dips. I think we should all reach for that. And remember what to say about the dip. The dip is like the upper body squat. So it's a great movement, and more guys should be doing it. So last but definitely not least, we have the pull-up. And when I say pull-up, I mean it could either be palms facing forward or palms to the side. I'm not talking about palms facing yourself. That is a chin-up. That's a totally different exercise. Works primarily your bicep, whereas the pull-up this way or this way works primarily your lats, with your biceps acting as a secondary muscle, and then your traps as well acting as a secondary muscle. So strength standards for pull-ups. So first and foremost, there's a little disclaimer with pull-ups, because a lot of bigger guys in 200 plus pounds, they really struggle with doing pull-ups. But I would say the bigger you are, the more muscle you have, so you should technically still be able to do pull-ups. I've seen guys who struggle, but then I've also seen guys who are 200 plus do pull-ups with tons of weight added. Okay, so strength standards for the novice lifter: 5 pull-ups, body weight, no extra weight. If you can do that, if you can do 5 pull-ups good form, perfect form, with no weight, that's a good starting point. That means you're on the right road, and you have good development in your lats. Your lats are pretty strong, especially if you're a little bit heavier. If you're like 200 plus and you're doing 5 pull-ups body weight, that's pretty good. That means you have good development in your lats. But that's just a starting point. We can all go up. You should be able to get there in 1 to 2 years. So when we're talking about intermediate lifters and the pull-up, so people might not agree with me on this. Some people think this might be too much weight, but I think if you're an intermediate lifter, you should be doing 5 reps with 45 pounds added onto your body weight. I think after 5 years of training, and I'm stretching it, intermediate lifter usually around 2 to 4, but let's say 5. Okay, if you've been training for 5 years, I think you could put 45 pounds on a belt or a dumbbell and rep out 5 pull-ups. I'm talking 5 pull-ups with good form. Okay, so yeah, so for an intermediate lifter, 5 pull-ups with 45 pounds on a belt. Okay, the lighter you are, the easier it's going to be. So this movement kind of favors lighter guys. If you're heavier, it might be a little bit harder. But that being said, you should still try to reach that. I mean, if you're 260, 270, okay, fine, you might not get there. But if you're 200, if you're 180 to 220, I think you can do it. I think you can add 45 pounds and then rep out 5 strict pull-ups. Now, moving on to the advanced lifter, okay? 5 years or more, okay? So you guys have been lifting for a while, okay? 75 to 80 pounds added to your body weight. Again, this will favor lighter guys, okay? Because then the overall weight that you're actually pulling up is going to be lower. But bigger guys generally can put on more muscle, okay? And if you are 180 to 220, you should be doing 80 pounds added to your body weight and then doing 5 strict pull-ups. Guys who are 250, you might not get there, okay? But for the lighter guys, for the vast majority of guys, you should be able to add up to 75 to 80 pounds and then be repping out 5 strict pull-ups, okay? Again, this is more than 5 years training, so a significant amount of training. So those are the strength standards for the upper body. I'm going to make another video talking about the strength standards for the lower body. So I'll probably include exercises like squats, back squats, front squats, deadlifts, and then other lower body movements as well. And then maybe I'm thinking I'll do one for arms, strictly arms, but let's see how it goes. But for now, these are the strength standards for the upper body. We talked about bench, we talked about overhead press, we talked about pull-ups, and we talked about dips. So that's the end of the video. If you guys have any comments on what you think the strength standards are, if you disagree with me, or if you do agree with me, or if you have your own different standards that you think are more appropriate for beginners and intermediate lifters and expert lifters, shoot your ideas into the comments. Let me know what you think, and like my channel, subscribe my channel, share the channel with your friends, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.